Matthew Swope knows what a winning culture is supposed to resemble. He's been a part of the four winningest seasons in Maryland men's baseball history as either a player or a coach. During his time roaming the dugout in College Park, the school has accumulated 233 wins and appeared in three NCAA tournaments. He joined me this week to discuss how the winning culture and structure was built, his successful transition from player to coach, and how the school is navigating through the age of coronavirus and not being able to play baseball this summer. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. So, Matthew, if you're ready, we'll welcome you to the program, and we're excited to learn all about Maryland baseball with you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Sounds good.
So, Matt, I know that you've been a part of four of the winningest seasons in Maryland baseball history. So, can you tell me what it's meant to you as either a player or a coach to be a part of that culture and how it was established?
Yeah, so for me, just a little bit about me. I'm born and bred in Maryland. So both my parents went to Maryland. They got married at the chapel on campus at the University of Maryland. So this is something that's been kind of ingrained in me since childbirth. So to see where we've come from when I played, where we weren't very good kind of at the beginning, to having a good senior year, to coming back on staff as a coach with some really successful seasons in the past 8 years since I've been here. It's been a blessing and a true honor to see the program rise the way it has. So it's been fun.
And tell me, what's been your biggest transition from being a player to a coach, and how do you think your playing days have helped you make a successful transition?
Well, I think the biggest thing is a player. Not everybody's going to do or process information the way you did. So for me, I had my own cues, my own feels, my own thoughts, my own competitive nature. But every player is going to be different. So the key for me is what I've tried to do over the years is understand the individual player, how they learn, what makes them tick, and that allows you to become a better coach. So for me, it was more getting out of myself and more getting into the individual player to understand what they need.
And you had mentioned that you're born and bred in Maryland. So, what, in terms of your personal satisfaction when you connect connect with players, what do you get out of that, and how do you help them appreciate the tradition that you're trying to build there in Maryland?
Well, one of the things we always talk about is leaving a legacy. So sometimes it's hard for, 17, 18, 19-year-olds to truly understand that because they're coming into their own. But hopefully over the course of time, when you build a specific culture, they understand what that means. And most of the time they don't really realize it till they become the older guys, junior, senior year. So I think that's the biggest part, is having them understand how to leave a legacy and how important it may be to them in 10 or 20 years. And that's hard to do sometimes with kids, because what make athletes great is they're one track minded. So, but at the same time, we got to be able to get them to stay present and kind of understand that as well.
And I know since you've been there, you've contributed to like nine All Americans, two academic All-Americans and 32 MLB players. So, as a coach, what's been your shining achievement there in Maryland? And just tell me about how proud you are of helping guys be put on a pathway to success.
Yeah, I think just as like just a general coach, when we went to South Carolina and they hadn't lost in 30 games and beat the number one seed, in front of 8,000 people in 2014 was probably a moment I'll never forget because nobody expected us to do it, to be honest. So, and even in that year, we were one game away from Omaha. We won our first game in the Super Regional versus UVA as well. So 2015 was fantastic too. Beat the number one overall seed at UCLA at their park with Reggie Miller there in attendance. So those have been some really, really special moments as a coach on the field. But obviously, I get the same feeling in a sense where I get a phone call from like Lamont Wade, who's in the big leagues now with the Twins at 2 a.m, and you're hoping that he's okay, but it's the call to come up to the big leagues. So. And seeing the success of guys like Brandon Lau, who's crushing it right now with the Rays, and Mike Schwarn, who's been up recently, and just all those guys, man, just to see how they've matured and remembering what it was like to go through some tough times with them, but to see how much they've grown as well.
And just as a coach, how has COVID affected the way you've coached, recruited, or stayed connected with your players?
Yeah, so it's been a rough year. Obviously, the season got canceled. And that's 15 games in, and that's the funnest part. That's why we put all this hard work in, is to actually play. So first and foremost, that was tough. Second, we haven't been able to recruit the entire year. So what I'm usually traveling around in the summer, we're now trying to just ascertain information through video, which is very tough, especially with the angles and the lack of technology. So it's completely changed the way everything's gone. What we've tried to do with our team to stay connected is obviously just like you, we do a lot of Zooms. We spent, 4 or 5 weeks in a row talking about the racial and social injustice with some of our black players on the team and bring everybody as a whole together so we can talk about these things. So it's not always just about baseball. There's challenges within COVID. There's challenges within what's going on in society right now. And then obviously them starting school last week, we're just trying to now kind of get back in the weight room, and we haven't started workouts yet, but that's kind of day to day.
And tell me, how have those conversations about racial justice gone on? How have you connected with your players in that way?
Yeah, well, we've always had a really diverse group. I mean, obviously, Maryland's a very diverse area, being 10 miles from D.C., 25 miles from Baltimore. So it's an important part of the diversity, the conversation that we always have. So we've always tried to do that even before some of these incidents that have happened. So what we tried to do during this time is we had them either watch a documentary or we brought in an actual police officer to talk about it from that side. So we're talking about it from both sides and trying to listen. And if it is a tough conversation, actually have it and be respectable to each other. So the conversations have been great. We've even protested, here in Annapolis with some of the coaches, and some people have gone to DC. So we're trying to listen and be open, and actually, tell some of our players these conversations are okay. You don't have to shy away from them, because if we don't talk about it, or we don't ask a Maxwell Costas who's black what he needs from us, then we're not truly being all in as a family and as a team.
And I'm just curious to get your thoughts on how you think you need to move forward in sort of preserving or building up upon the winning culture that you've built there for Maryland baseball.
Yeah, well, I mean, we have our pillars. Our pillars are ownership, toughness, and growth mindset. So we try to keep it within that stuff, and everything we do, regardless of what's happened in society, comes from those pillars. And Rob is, who our head coach is a master at that. He truly appreciates the leadership, the culture, the growth mindset, molding young minds through men. So we spend a lot of time on that culture and being able to be open-minded as well. It can't be maybe rigid like, where I grew up 20 years ago, and it was kind of the coaches were, it's either this way or no way, and there's no talking about it. I think we set the standards, but we're also um, open-minded and willing to listen. And sometimes for coaches, that's the hardest part, is to just sit there and listen.
And then my final question for you is: how do you think this time period has helped you grow as a coach, helping you connect with your players, and how do you hope to improve moving forward?
Well, I think whenever you have challenges, it's easy to make excuses, but you got to find the opportunities in it. So for me, it's connecting in different ways. Um, for me, it's maybe spending the time uh, on the phone through conversations with guys, in the summer that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise when they were playing summer baseball. It's the Zooms that we're talking about with the racial and social injustice that may not have happened if we had a regular year without COVID, because everybody's playing summer ball and it's hard. So you have to look at what we've been able to do in spite of that, and look at as it more of an opportunity to how we can communicate better, because everything we do as coaches and players and anything, right, is communication. So for us, it's how can we communicate better as a staff, and still keep that line of communication and family type aspect with our kids and players.
Fantastic, man. I want to thank you for a few minutes and for your time this morning and talking Maryland baseball. Really enjoyed the conversation, and thanks so much for being here today, buddy.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Best of luck.